scholars, we are jumping into video 5 of our unit. Now we're getting to the nitty-gritty. We're going to dive into analyzing our text, the poem I Know Why the Caged Bird Sings by Maya Angelou. And we're going to do this in 2 parts. So there's going to be a part A and a part B for this video. So go ahead, grab your foldable because you're going to want to be able to reference the literary devices that we have outlined through the Quizlet and the foldable we created yesterday. So let's jump in, starting with the first stanza. So we have talked about this before, but a stanza is a paragraph, but it's in a poem. So a stanza is like a paragraph, but a stanza refers to a poem paragraph in so many words. So, first stanza, the free bird leaps on the back of the wind and floats downstream till the current ends, and dips his wings in the orange sun rays, and dares to claim the sky. So right away, we see the free bird. Now, from our identification of tag, we know that the free bird is actually a metaphor. There's not an actual free bird, but there's a comparison that's being made between a white American in the civil rights era and a free bird. So we know that the free bird is a metaphor or a direct comparison between white Americans in the civil rights era and a free bird. So this is going to be a metaphor. Then continuing down in this stanza, and floats downstream till the current ends, and dips his wings in the orange sun rays, and dares to claim the sky. I'm going to underline orange sun rays. Now, this phrase is absolutely imagery. And if we look at our foldable, we can read off the definition of imagery as a literary device that appeals to the 5 senses. So sight, smell, taste, hearing, and touch. So go ahead. Pause the video when I say go and identify what sense imagery is appealing to when Angelou writes orange sun rays. Okay, go ahead, pause. So we know that imagery is appealing to senses, and the sense that is being appealed to here is sight. So I'm going to go ahead and create a little eyeball so I know that the imagery that is being, or the imagery here is appealing to sight. Okay, so let's move on into the second stanza. So, but a bird that stalks down his narrow cage can seldom see through his bars of rage. His wings are clipped and his feet are tied. So he opens his throat to sing. Wow. So right off the bat, we have consonants. And if you look at your foldable, you'll know that consonants is the use of repeated consonant sounds in quick succession within a sentence or phrase. So, but a bird is the repetition of the consonant B. So, but a bird that stalks down his narrow cage. So we know that there's a caged bird. And the caged bird symbolizes the imprisonment of African Americans through segregation. So I'm going to just write that out. through segregation, or Jim Crow laws. So right away we have but a bird that stalks down his narrow cage. The cage bird, of course, symbolizes the imprisonment of African Americans through segregation or Jim Crow laws. And I believe, no, let me rephrase that because that's not a very strong way to start off my sentence. I know that Angelou intentionally used consonants to emphasize this difference between the free bird or the white American and this caged bird to really show us that stark contrast. So this bird can seldom see through his bars of rage. Wow. Already we know the caged bird is angry about its predicament. He knows that this situation he's in is not okay. He knows it's an injustice. And he's angry about it, and rightfully so. His wings are clipped, and his feet are tied. So not only can this bird not fly freely because he's in a cage, he really never can, even if the cage gets opened, because his wings are clipped. Now, some background knowledge there. Anytime you have a domesticated bird, its wings will be clipped. Now, what that does is if the bird escapes from its cage, it can't fly. If your wings are clipped, they don't function anymore. So we know this bird can't fly because his wings are clipped, and his feet are tied just to really drag him down and make sure this bird can't do anything. We know he can't fly. We know he can't even stand. He's just laying down in this small cage that's constricting him. So, he does the only thing he can. He opens his throat to sing. Now, I'm going to underline this because whatever song this bird is singing is extremely important. So I want to pay close attention to this as I continue to read this poem. Moving on into the third stanza. The caged bird sings with fearful trill. I'm going to circle the word trill. And normally I'd have you turn and tell your neighbor or your shoulder partner that trill means sound. And it's kind of a warbling sound. So if you've ever heard a bird chirp, you could also call that chirp a trill. So the bird sings with a fearful trill or sound. So go ahead, turn and tell your dog, your cat, your parent, anybody in the room with you, or just scream it into the void that trill means sound. In 3, 2, 1, trill means sound. So the caged bird sings with fearful trill of things unknown but longed for still. And his tune is heard on the distant hill, for the caged bird sings of freedom. So the second line of the things unknown but longed for still. We know that this bird longs for or desires freedom, right? He longs to be able to spread his wings and fly. And his tune is heard on the distant hill. Now, we notice this quick repetition of a vowel sound. Now, I want you to look through your foldable. What literary term means use of repeated vowel sounds in quick succession? So go ahead, pause the video when I say go and figure out what literary term is being used here with the phrase distant hill, a use of repeated vowel sounds in quick succession. Okay, go ahead, pause. Okay, so distant hill, there's a repetition of the vowel I, and this is going to be called assonance. And this is super important to me because Angelou is intentionally creating assonance with this line because she wants us to know that although our caged bird, while he may be scared, while he may be fearful, his song is reaching far and wide. His song is really being spread. It may be the only thing he can do, but it is important and it's making a difference. So I'm going to write down this assonance emphasizes that this song of freedom is heard far and wide. For the caged bird sings of freedom.